don't know how much time I have. I've got Trygg out here with me. Look at these amazing things. I've got to cut them. We've been eating them like crazy. These are those Thai purple potted yard-long beans, and they are pretty prolific, as you can see. One thing I'm learning about the trellises is that they only go to about halfway because they only go as far as they need to reach for the sun, and so they don't go back down the other arch. So I'm gonna have to, originally I do have stuff planted to go up both sides, but the cucumbers got about waist high and the melons got about a head high, and then they've decided they don't want to go any further. So but these are very, very prolific. I need to cut a bunch of these, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. He's yelling, so I don't know like how far I'll get into that. And one of the things you have to watch out for these is the ants, because you remember how I had such a problem with the ants with these. They are still here. Like, the ants are still here. Like, they will crawl off of these things and get you. With these, I've noticed that they usually produce 2 of the noodles, but they have a line for a 3rd, and if you trim it, you don't like tear it off. Go away. See? You goodness, I'm not talking about. If you snip them off rather than pulling the whole head of where they're growing off, and I'll show you that up close here in just a minute, but they'll produce a 3rd one on that same head, and so you're getting 3 instead of 2 on them. Hold on, Trygg, baby, what? Yeah, go ahead and you can swing on the swing. No wasps over there on that thing. But yeah, there you can see here it's got like the tong, the 3rd tong, but it's got where like 2 of them have grown, and those are usually about the length that I get them, because you don't want to let them get much longer, because then they get real, like you can see the pods in this one, and so this one's coming out. This one is not. Oh my god! But I've also been seed saving of these. Can you what? No, we can't play with Raylan. Raylan's got guests over, baby. So we can't go raid their party, okay? Do you see those little Tigger melons? Do you see the melons with the little stripes? Oh, here, you put that in the basket for me. There we go. Here, you be my helper. There's another one. Alright, guys, this is the best kind of stuff to have. Little helpers. Here, put those in. Woo, big help. Oh, see, that was the 3rd one. That had grown on that. Because they'll grow in 2s and 3s. There's one. Oh, you're such a big helper. I think I'm gonna leave that one for seed. That one's already gone a little bit. Don't be picking them. There we go.
Why is it gone for?
Well, baby, I'm just doing it for seed. It's not a problem. We've got tons to eat. We don't need to take all of them. We can use some for seed. But yeah, that's why some of these have just like 1 on it rather than 2, because they usually grow. So do not pull that off. You'll break it, baby. You'll break the plant and you'll damage it. Quit.
It's full.
It is full, but that's why we're leaving it, and we're gonna let it dry out, and we're gonna get the seeds out of it.
No, I don't want it dry.
Oh, buddy, but that's oh, Trygg. Goodness, buddy. Someone has not had a nap, and we've been going all day today, as you know. So he's a bit grumpy. We tried to get him to nap. He does not want a nap. I think the funny ones are the ones that are like twisty, like that. But yeah, I'm going to do these, and I've been roasting them. I did can, as far as pickled some of them. I have not pressure canned. Do not pull the little ones off, they're not ready. And yeah, you can go inside if you want. Oh, see, there's one. I don't know if you can see it from the angle, but see the flower on the 3rd prong? So I want to make sure that I don't clip that flower when I clip those loose. And obviously he's running for the hills, and here in just a minute he's going to yell and want me to help him get in the back door. Because he can't. Sometimes. I think I get the back door. I may be off the screen, and I'm just clipping the last parts that are over here. And I'll take you through and show you some of the updates, because you'll notice that behind the, oh, he got the door. We're good. Never mind. I don't have to go chase him. You'll notice behind me, because I love how the noodle beans fill up, but I also love how they don't smother each other out, because there's air. There's room for air to flow through this. But you'll notice behind me the corn is no longer there. We did pick that. I will say that it was not great. It was very pretty, but not great. As a matter of fact, hold on. This is what it looked like. Obviously we had all these colors, but the thing that was the most interesting, and I hope you can see it, is you see how that was sprouting. We had a bunch of this corn that inside the shuck, like the shuck was closed, and the corn kernels were sprouting. I kept this one out to show my husband. I mean, we had a lot of mold going on. We had a bunch of them growing, like the corn kernels were growing on the inside. We have had so much rain that this is just evidence of how much rain that we've had. It is kind of crazy. And so, like, the colors in it were really pretty, but this is definitely something you want to just, at least for us, it didn't really have a good flavor, just grow and put up to dry. And that's kind of what I'm leaving some of these for, just decorations, those kinds of things, because they were just not worth eating for us. But for us, with the limited space that we have, I don't think I will grow this again, just simply because we want to grow things that we will eat. And this was not something that made the list this year. So of course I tried a dozen new things this year, and this was one that I'm like, okay, I just didn't like this one. We're just not gonna do that unless we get, like, say I have a bunch of space and I decided to do a bunch of like the gym corn and just a bunch of the pretty corn to try, great. Not gonna do it in the actual raised beds, because this is where we typically grow the food that we're going to eat. And along those lines, and I'll throw this back in there, I am gonna leave that other noodle bean and let it dry. I have been saving seed from it. I've already got some seed saved, so it's not a huge deal that Trygg cut that one. I just don't want him to damage the plants, because obviously, like, they're still putting on and they're healthy and they're happy. I've actually replanted some. There's going to be another round of them coming up on this side and over there on that side of the tomatoes to meet with those other beans. So I don't know if the rattlesnake beans will last long enough for them to meet in the middle, but Lord, it would be lovely if they did. But now I know. So I know how to do it next year when I decide. So, but let me grab you. I'm gonna show you the basket full of these things because they fill up quick, and I'll also show you a few of the other little changes that are. So, let's Trygg back up. Don't know what he's doing. There are the silver slicers. Obviously, they're dying off some. So we have had a lot of 95 to almost 100-degree days. So they are surviving better than I thought. The melons, that one's dying. That is a decent sized Tigger melon. We've not gotten any of them to ripe yet, but you notice how the vines are dying off. I'm pretty sure the vine borers moved from the spaghetti squash to this trellis, because look at the damages on this. Now, they're still climbing and still green, parts of it, so I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna let it do what it's doing, see if I can get a couple of these to ripe, because it would be nice to be able to try one. You see that eggplant in there? I'm probably getting close to being able to pick a few of those bigger ones. I've heard that you can pick them when they're dull. Look at that big basket full of noodle beans. It's all over the place. But about the eggplants, sorry, I'm all over the place. About the eggplants, I've heard you can pick them when they're dull and that when they stop growing. That one has not gotten any bigger. And the plants aren't very big, so that leads me to think that that might be the size that it's just gonna get, and that's okay. It's a pretty good size, especially if you get 2 or 3 of them, so I'm okay with that, because the other plants are putting on, and so I may take those soon just to give the plant more time to produce further. Now look at these. Now these are the Mr. Stripeys. These are some that are, you know, this is one that's just now starting to put on. Obviously we still have the midnight snack doing really well over there. It's actually falling over because it's so covered up with fruit. This is a midnight snack as well. This one was grown off of a sucker. I cut the sucker off of the other plant, put it in the ground. This one is producing. This is a secondary plant off of a plant I bought from the store, because I just was like, I'm gonna put the sucker in the ground. The sucker got huge and I'm gonna get tomatoes off of it, so it's pretty awesome. Now obviously these are sprawling. These are those cherry tomato varieties, the daddy's tomato. These are my solar flares. I've been picking a ton off of those. They are doing very well. Those are some of my favorite flavored ones, and they are pretty, like really pretty. Now, the Black Beauty, I've gotten a couple. The rest of these, I mean, we've got several on the plant, but the rest of them are just not ripening up yet, and that's okay. They just take their time. God, these ground cherries. There's one like down there on the ground I need to get. But they're everywhere. They're spreading, and I come out here and get a handful every day, keep them in a bowl on the counter, and I made a jar of jelly with them. Look at that one. Like, that's the black cherry, and see how it broke over? It's so heavy that it broke. It was like way up here, and so I'm gonna leave it alone. If it lives, it's got several little brackets of fruit. If it lives, then let it do what it's doing. If it doesn't, I'll cut it off and get it out of the way. But it is very prolific. I've gotten lots and lots out of this. I mean, it's constantly putting on. I've got some kind of little thing attacking a bug there, sometimes a little wasp. But so obviously rattlesnake beans are still extremely prolific. I need to come out here and cut these. I ended up not posting the video of me standing out here cutting rattlesnake beans, because it just seemed dull. The only thing interesting about it was that the haze from the fires and the smokes, like it did, like you could very clearly see where the smoke and stuff was coming in. We'll see if I can get to one of these flowers, if one of these are still blooming. No, it's closed up. That one, it's late in the evening because it's been so hot. That one was gorgeous earlier today. But yeah, so I'm leaving. If I haven't mentioned, or if I've mentioned and the video hasn't gotten posted, these are all being left right now for the Japanese beetles, and just kind of as bait, and to be dried. Dried beans. I'm going to try to put some and preserve some as dry beans. So that's kind of what's going on with that. The rosemary, I'm still amazed at how healthy this rosemary looks. I'm really kind of thrilled with it. The catnip has come in strong since the heat. Catnip really likes heat, and it has come in strong since the 90-degree days have officially started at the end of July. Finally, you see all the little bumbly bees. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about is the bees, and I may set you up so I can actually stand and talk to you. You don't see many of the honeybees down here. Most of this is bumblebees that's on the oregano and the catnip. It's a little late in the evening for the bees, so that is not surprising. And so it's kind of crazy. But let me set you back up over here, and let me see if I can get it. Get my little spot set. So the bees went down and did a hive inspection yesterday because the neighbors, I had two neighbors that got bees before me. They got their nukes in end of April, early May. We got them installed, and one of the neighbors ended up swarming and getting two, because we caught the swarm and were able to, you know, separate it into two hives. So we had 3 down there originally, and then I got mine on the 4th of July, which made it 4. Well, one of my neighbors went out Thursday night, I think it was Thursday night, and his bees were completely gone. And his was the healthiest hive, the calmest hive. Like, that was the one that I could just walk up to and poke and mess with, and they, you know, we were able to work with them without really even, we wear a hood, but I mean, you didn't have to fully suit up to deal with them when you were checking them. And so we didn't know what happened. He started taking his hive apart Thursday. I helped him a little, but I had the kids, and so I couldn't stay down there and help him, because obviously I'm not taking the kids down to the apiary, and especially with my bees. We learned the hard way that yesterday. So we ended up last night like doing a full hive inspection on all of them, like checking to see what we could find, because after I left Thursday night, he ended up finding a small swarm, like a very small swarm, in his garden on a pepper plant. So he ended up taking the entire pepper plant, putting it back in his hive in hopes that he got his queen back in there. But it was a very, very small swarm, and the hive looked like it had significant hive beetle damage. And so he obviously was cleaning out some frames, had to get some new frames, you know, and sterilize a few things and try to see if we could get that hive to stay, and if it had his queen in it, to continue to thrive. Because whereas you're supposed to have, like when you buy a nuke, you get 10 to 12,000 bees in a nuke. And usually if you buy it with the frames, like, it's already got brood going, and so, I mean, you have the potential to have something like 15 to 20,000 bees in a nuke. Well, his, when we first opened it Thursday, there may have been 50 to 100 bees. Like, I'm not exaggerating. We seriously think that they absconded, and that the ones that were still in the hive were the ones that were maybe out foraging when they decided to leave. Or they were raiders from the other hives, since that hive was empty. And so we don't know for sure, like, originally what happened. We checked for pesticides, because it is not like on top of, but close to the railroad tracks, and we were like, well, if they sprayed that ditch, then, you know, there's a good chance that it was pesticides that ran them off. Or if, you know, we have dairy fields over here, and we did notice that they had sprayed the fence line, but it's like a half an acre away, over an acre away. So we didn't think, and it's not affecting, the other 3 hives do not seem to be affected. It just seemed to be Joe's. So we're thinking it was a hive beetle infestation, but we're not 100% sure, and we're still, like, playing it out, seeing what happens. So he did get them back in the box. We did a full hive inspection Friday on all the hives. Well, on my hive and his hive, and then we put traps in all the hives, because the other neighbors weren't home at the time, and we didn't want to, like, fully take theirs apart, but we definitely wanted to go ahead and put traps in there just in case, because we had seen 1 or 2 beetles here or there. Now with mine, we seen 1 or 2 beetles on the outside, but I did not see any on the inside. I added the second super because this was the healthiest I have seen my bees since we added the inside feeder that holds like a gallon at a time. It was a significant change from the last time I did a hive inspection. I got to see the full range of things. I did not see my queen, but I seen newly laid eggs, all stages of larvae. I even got to see a couple of the bees hatching out, like chewing their ways out. There were a couple of drone cells, but not enough to, like, be concerned about. And they were storing away food again. And they do come after you, like they did come after me to begin with, but they did start calming down as I was getting through the process. And when I added the second super on top and then moved the feeder and, you know, all those things, by the end of it, I was able to walk away, and they stayed at the hive. They did not chase me, which is a positive with my bees. Like, Joe found out the hard way, because he was helping me in shorts and just a top, because he had been able to work his bees like that. And I had come down fully suited up, even though it was 95 stinking degrees. And I was not opening my hive first. We were checking his first. And so he was trying to help and went over to open mine, and before I could get him warned, and they, like, went after him, and he had to, you know, kind of hightail it and get away from him a little bit because he was in shorts. But he came back and, you know, just kind of watched from afar while I worked them, because they were obviously, like, going to get anyone that came anywhere near them when I had the hive open. So we got through it. Like I said, it was the best hive inspection I've had so far. They are building on the new frames. They are expanding into the new frames. I feel like adding the super was a good idea, because they've been bearding really heavily lately, and I feel like that's going to give them more space and more room to breathe. But it also, hopefully, cross our fingers, I did not see any queen cells, so I don't have any immediate concerns of swarming. I have been feeding them, so they should be happy. So we're going to check them again in a week or so. I did put the beetle trap in, even though I did not see any beetles actually inside the hive. So, but it's like on our radar now, because Joe had been on vacation and been out, and, you know, just, you think, like, during this time, his bees were the most settled, and his actually had a honey super on top because they had expanded so well. And then all of a sudden they're just gone. And so it just goes to show you how frustrating and unexpected, like, that beekeeping can be. You can put all this effort into it, everything seemed perfectly normal, and if you don't keep an eye on them, or even if you do keep an eye on them, they can still surprise you and completely disappear, and then you're starting over basically from scratch. So he was debating, before he found the little swarm, he was debating about whether or not he should just, you know, take everything, clean everything, put it up, get a nuke next year, because it's too late in the season. There's a risk that there's a really good chance that they won't have enough time to build up. And I'm getting eaten up by ants because I'm right here by this plant. But there's a good chance that they're not going to have enough time to build up winter stores, and you're going to end up feeding them all winter. And so, which, I mean, you can do. People do it, but here where they have plenty, you know, stuff blooms pretty much year round here. That's not something that typically you want to do for this area, but he's debating on whether or not that's what he wants to do. We're going to see what this little swarm does. We didn't see a queen when we checked it yesterday. I'm speaking of Trygg. Hold on, baby. I'll be out in there in just a second. But we didn't see the queen. We didn't see any newly laid eggs. They did appear to be building on the comb. They did appear to be building maybe a queen cell on the bottom of one of them, and so Joe's wanting to wait it out, see what they do. I mean, because it's not going to hurt anything. If they requeen themselves, then that just helps everybody. It's just, they're just going to be a smaller hive going into winter, and he would end up feeding them. The same thing would happen if he got a nuke right now and ended up feeding them, but he's working from 2,000 bees where he should be starting out at like 10. So it's kind of sad. Like, he was really kind of sad, and I felt bad for him, and it had me worried that my bees were going to do something similar. But I opened the hive, and they are the happiest that I've seen them. Like, they were all over the frames, completely filling things up, doing their jobs very clearly, doing everything that you would expect a bee to be doing. And again, they, after the first few minutes, quit coming after me. Now, they did go after Joe because he, you know, was near the front of the hive, but they, after a little bit, they quit. And then when I got everything put back together, like, they didn't follow me. Like, that I was able to walk away. And when I got, not even to my driveway, because they have followed me all the way up my driveway and, like, to my vehicles where we would take our suits off. They have followed me all the way back there, and I've had to kill them to keep them from getting us after we take our suits off, because they were that determined. But they didn't even follow us to his driveway. And I was able to unsuit down there, you know, and sit and talk to Joe and, you know, kind of plan and see what's going on with that. So we've been doing a lot of research on hive beetles, and then lo and behold, I cut sunflowers to go on my kitchen table because the sunflowers are still producing wonderfully and they're beautiful, and I like having them on the kitchen table. And was sitting at breakfast this morning, just sitting there, seeing something moving, looked over, there's a hive beetle on my sunflowers. So yeah, they're obviously very prolific here, but I feel like if we keep the hives strong, they will have enough workers and enough guardians to keep those beetles out. Because again, I've seen some on the outside of mine, but none on the inside. I'm hoping that mine's got enough gumption to keep them at bay. So, but that's what's been going on with the bees. We did do the inspections yesterday. I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to start videoing some of that, but again, with how just a roller coaster everything has been, I'm not comfortable doing that yet. So, you know, I'll just keep giving you guys updates, letting you know what's going on. I may post some pictures on Instagram just to, you know, do that. I didn't take any pictures last night, just simply because we had a mission. Like, we were on a mission to make sure that none of the other hives were going to do something similar. So we kind of had a goal in mind, and we were doing a job. So I wasn't taking any pictures last night when that was going down. But I will leave you guys alone. I will get this one posted. It's the end of July. It's the 31st. It's 95. It's typical Tennessee July at this point. I'm like sweating under my glasses and everywhere. I have managed, even through all of that wet, to keep my tomatoes healthy. Prune, oh my God, prune them. They will do fine. And some of them have even been still producing fruit, even with the 90-degree days. So I'm surprised, but they're doing very well. We're gonna keep playing it out. There have been some years I've had my tomatoes ripped out by this point. So I did tear the corn out. We've obviously torn the squash out, like all of that's out. The spaghetti squash is all out. I have a feeling that the cucumbers and probably these melons are gonna be next, but we're in that transitioning stage. I'm already planning things that I'm gonna grow for next year. I'm thinking of putting some root vegetables in this, like my turnips and my parsnips that I wanna grow this year. And so that's kind of in the works and in the plan. So we shall see how things progress. You guys have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.